us live streaming to the fantastic World Wide Web. So hello everybody, welcome and thank you very much for logging in, tuning in whatever way you've done. So absolutely delighted to have everybody here, and really looking forward to hearing from you all as well, and also sharing, just sharing maybe some of what's been going on in your literary lives and in your extraordinary year as well, in one way or another. So we've got three people who I have specifically asked to be featured poets, mostly because when I was thinking, I've loved everybody's work for one reason or another that I've heard and read, but there are a couple of people that really stood out to me in my time when I was in Southend, and so they very kindly agreed to read. That's Jill and James. And then I was thinking also of Bethany, who I've met more recently in Shrewsbury, who's been, I think, at most of the evenings that I've been to and read at. And I really like her work because I think we've got that shared connection in terms of the spiritual aspect of things as well. Not that that's necessarily missing from everybody else's work, but it's just very clear, I think, in ours. So we'll start with you three guys, and then we'll move on to hear from everybody else. And it looks like we're probably going to have quite a bit of time, all of us, to read. So how delightful. I hope you've all got plenty to pick from. But
I'll go get my big book.
Yeah, go get your big book. So I'm going to start with a poem that I wrote probably back in February, expecting to take with me to either the next night in Whitchurch or in Shrewsbury, which of course never happened. And it was really it just seems like the perfect thing to start with, because it was just reflecting on what a thing a poetry open mic night is. So it's called Poetry Night. Every month you stand naked before me, and time and again, unashamedly bare every inch of what it is to be human. We gather to heal, to breathe long, deep breaths of the relief of being allowed for 2 sweet hours to peel back the membrane of pretense and open our wounds to the fresh air. Open our inner worlds. We witness, honor, validify. From the tiny bruise to the bloody gash, from the small injustice to the whole earth shattering around our desperate ears. Those ears who long to hear cried out in the dark night that we are not alone. I hear you. I see your strength, born from your vulnerabilities, that you will not simply wrap up and box away. I hear you. As your syllables trip out one by one and trickle down through those of others into a pool of meaning at my own heart center. And I know those ripples. Your ripples join her ripples, join his ripples, join my own. I believe in you. I believe in us. This swelling of honest connection that washes away the detritus of a world bent on greed, hatred, and delusion. On a weekday night, in a UK town, we take up arms, sharpen the truth of our own raw battles, and we will rise, each perfect warrior subtly tuned to the frequency of their own healing. Listen to that symphony. We're beautiful and we're changing the world. Words are jet fuel. They burn with a passion. They propel us beyond the articulate and shoot us out into pure understanding. come with me, beyond the oppression of all we are told we should be. Explode my sentences and ride the shockwaves far past the atmosphere of our timid society. Take my paragraphs, ignite them with your own truths, and meet me above the stratosphere of our imagined separation. Dance with me in that clear blue nothing. Delight in our sparkling differences and let our consciousnesses mingle until we know what it is to be one another. Sing with me until we know we have never been separate at all. Thank you. So, yeah, you've all very beautifully responded to that. Thank you. And that's one thing that I did forget to say, which is we won't try and do the massive applause thing. So we can, looks like at the moment there's a small enough number of us that we can just visually acknowledge, and maybe we'll have a bit of applause at the end of our featured poets section, which will help keep things manageable, I think. So I would be really delighted to invite Jill, please, to speak first, to read for us. So am I right, Jill? I think you describe your work as poignant comedy, if I got that right. Is that the phrase you use?
Yes, the first piece I'm going to do is very much not comedy, but pointant. No, okay. Nonetheless, okay. If there's poignancy in it, there is.
Great.
But this, are we doing two little sessions?
Yes, I thought so.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if that's the case, I'll save something that's slightly more comedic, although actually not all comedic, but slightly more comedic for the second part. But the first piece I got, I absolutely love what you wrote then, actually, just about oneness through poetry, really, and how we can come together through spoken word. That was just a real powerful conveyance of what we're all feeling tonight. I have to say I've been a bit under the weather, so if I drift off and need water, you'll understand. So the first piece I'm going to do is called Viral, and it's a kind of composite of lots of the phrases that have been used recently since the beginning of this virus, but it's also about the word in its wider context about other things going viral, like hatred and racism, things like that. So hopefully you'll get that through the poem. I will have a sip of water. Batten down the hatches so nobody catches. We catch this, it's matches. Forest fire, tinder, swathes of charred patches. Keep a safe distance, cover up, or it's pistols at dawn, despite the difference. Existence is the line of least resistance. Black lives matter, if white lives matter, and all in between were atoms that shatter. So bring on the hammer. Speak up or we'll stammer. Words stick like glue. Tool up, knives and spanners, paint up the banners. We too. Stock up or we're starving, stoked up, carving words on trees we once planted. Say stay strong or we're stranded. Disaster has landed, looming larger than life. Act like we planned it. This planet, we've shamed it. Shadows were named and crammed into tight boxes. It's foxes with faces in streets and high spaces. It's viral staircases in a castle of stone hearts. So pull up the moat, shore up the mast, stoke the fire where it starts. Stay alert, but look down, look away. Frown in judgment, rue the day it all started. Rule the way that you wanted. Count your cost and forget it. Place your bets on the table. Walk away. You're still stable somehow. Still standing, crammed into those tight boxes. Nail it down and go under. Exhumed once, now you wonder. Covering yourself with Grenfell cladding, fooling ourselves with a false sense of clothing. The emperor prowls in flesh-coloured sweet nothings and covers up truths with bare-faced smoke screens. It's divisive extremes, it's forest fires, flash floods, pandemic disease, plagues and poverty. It's racist idolatry and air you can't breathe, the seas rising with plastic. It's chemistry, antimatter, matters. It's terrorists and tornadoes, gagged visionaries and vices. It's the tipping point to an existential crisis, carved out in large slices, cried out in loud voices as hatred sets in and slowly rejoices. God has the answers. But we've lost the questions. Its profits were lost by our profits and losses. The market is tables that turn on a knife edge. We've been around the block, so we've blocked out the noise, turned down the volume, given guns out like toys. Wise words get erased till they never existed, exhumed all the bodies, returned empty-fisted. Speak out, stay strong while we all get arrested. We've bombed out the basement, pulled the rug from under us. Greta is thunderous, we're washed out till colourless. It's terrorists and tornadoes, gagged visionaries and vices. It's the tipping point to an existential crisis, carved out in large slices, cried out in loud voices as hatred sets in and slowly rejoices. We've been around the block, so we've blocked out the noise, turned down the volume, given guns out like toys. Wise words get erased till they never existed. But we can change. We can turn our weakness into opportunity, mistakes into lessons learned, where longings for a better life can be born out. Fairness can be fleshed out. False idols can be taken down, new statues and fresh statutes, replacing the crumbling decays of ivory towers. Our planet has revolted, but we can have our own revolution. The tipping point is closer than we think. Thank you. Whew. Thank you. So not comedy.
Gosh, thank you. There's so much in that.
Oh, I haven't got any more for now. The next bit is a bit longer, so I'll tag that on, the timing
Great.
on the end, if that's all right.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm just going to pause briefly for a slight tech thing. I think when I made you host, I lost the live stream. Could you put me back, please? We're just finding a way. Thank you. Great. Thank you very much, Jill. Gosh, I feel like I need to hear that at least 3 more times to come anywhere near the
lots in it.
Content. That's amazing. Is it online anywhere? I'd love to read it actually.
I did it on a Zoom a little while ago, but I don't know if it went online, so not a very good version of it anyway.
You're muted.
It's not online on a very good thing yet, so once it is, I'll put it on my YouTube link.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you. Great, thank you. So I'd like to invite James to read next. So James is someone else that I knew from Southend, and his creativity is far from limited to writing and spoken word. He's also a filmmaker and a musician. So yeah, I'm not even going to try and anticipate what genre he's going to share with us this evening, because his written work is as varied as his creative abilities. So to say no more and hand over.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this. It's really this is new to, I think it's new, obviously new to a lot of people, but this is very new to me. Zoom, it was a bane of my life over summertime. I did a lot of Zoom meetings for a film I was making. I did all my auditions and all my meetings via Zoom, and didn't like it one bit. But this is the new normal, so we'll go along with this and see how it goes. So like Jill, I'm going to do 2 sets, hopefully 2 very different sets. The first set I'm going to do is the stuff most people like Jill and Beth would know me from, is my poetry. And then the second set I'm going to try a bit of storytelling, which I've done a couple of times. I'm a little bit more nervous about the storytelling because literally the 2 stories that I've written, I wrote yesterday. So I've always had no time to rehearse them whatsoever. Let's see how they go. So let's start off where I am more comfortable with some poetry. I've got two longish ones and then a succession of very quick ones. This first one's called I Never Learnt Karate. I never learnt karate. My parents never wanted me to. They were pacifists, so I guess I had to be one too. They wanted me to be a writer, because the pen is mightier than the sword. So I tried to be a writer, so far with no reward. But I never learnt karate. I never learnt to fight, not till I was 25, and I'll tell you about that night. I was in a pub with my mates. A big lad bumped into me. I tried to be clever. I recited a poem. He beat the shit out of me. Because I never learnt karate. I never learnt to box, no judo in my teenage years, just a self-made clever clogs. Now I always keep a pen on me, and I'll tell you why. If another lad bumps into me, I'll jab the fucker in the eye. Okay, when I did that performance in the Chalkle Park, I decided to go very short, sharp poems. So I tried to write as many poems as I could with 1 or 2 lines. Be very concise. This is just a selection of some of them. This one's called Elephant in the Room. I came home the other night to find my wife had bought an elephant. I didn't want to mention it though, as elephants aren't too elegant. Next one, Bob Marley. Bob Marley's a bloody liar, because he said no woman, no cry. Well, why in case when I have no woman do I cry all the time? This is called The Pain of the Human Body. My heart beats, my mind thinks, my fingers point, my feet stinks. This one's called Pigeons. Pigeons are political, the evidence is clear, because they've been crapping on statues of racists for years and years and years. Next one's called Masks. You have to put your mask on. I rolled my eyes and said, why? Because we're going scuba diving, and without a mask, you'll die. Last of the short ones, this one's about the pop star Cher. Cher cloned herself because she couldn't ride a bike. Now she rides a tandem, Cher and Cher alike. One more poem, quite a long one. It's probably my most famous poem I do. It's about an 18 to 30 holiday when I was in my, I certainly wasn't 30. About holiday in Magaluf. So me and my mates went on holiday to Magaluf for a couple of days. To be quite honest, it's not up my street. I don't like the sun and I don't like the heat. I don't like drink lager and I don't do drugs. I don't like going to all night clubs. I don't like tossers, and to tell you the truth, you get a lot of tossers in Magaluf. So from Southend Airport on an EasyJet plane, I took my hand luggage and left behind my brain. We arrived at Maga at 10 at night, still a little stiff from the budget flight. My mates ditch their bags and they head for the strip. I follow them, but I feel such a tit. I don't like tacky places, and to tell you the truth, it's pretty bloody tacky in Magaluf. It's all yeah or mate or oi or cool and all the other things I wasn't when I was at school. All the men are geezers and all the women are birds. They don't like using multi-syllable words. The music is repetitive Euro pop. Every place played the same and it never stops. You had to be drunk, but to tell you the truth, I'd rather be dead than drunk in Magaluf. I'm not sure the exchange rate of euros to pounds, but 20 euros gets you a couple of rounds. My friends say that was cheap, but I wouldn't agree. I wouldn't drink here if the drinks were free. The beer was warm like diluted piss, so I thought to myself, I've had enough of this. I went back to the hotel, but to tell you the truth, hotels aren't much better in Magaluf. The beds are too hard, the pillows too soft, rooms more cramped than Anne Frank's loft. The walls were covered in damp and mould, too hot in the daytime and nighttime too cold. I don't like insects, and to tell you the truth, bugs as big as dogs in Magaluf. Morning time and breakfast is cereal or fruit or bacon so well done it tastes like old boots. I decided to spend the day at the pool drinking rum under the shade because I don't like the sun. Everyone else is brown and everyone else is tanned. I only got here yesterday. I don't understand. Sunbathing and partying, and to tell you the truth, it's like Groundhog Day every day in Magaluf. Hotel bar for pre-drinks and snacks, chat to some girls and hope they chat back. Pub, club, drugs, mugs until 3:30, then a drunken fight followed by KFC. Pass out, piss yourself, wake up feeling crap. Breakfast, sunbathe and an afternoon nap. Every club believes the same, and to tell you the truth, that's the way it's always been in Magaluf. 3 days later and you're paying the cost. You can't keep food down and 3 stone you have lost. Your head's still spinning, you got heat stroke, you haven't really slept, so your spirit is broke. Flight's been delayed, and even then, you're only going to end up in Southend again. I turn to my mates and I tell them the truth. I'm never going back to fucking Magaluf. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Gosh, yeah, I do remember that one actually. Not that there's any reason why I shouldn't, but I really like your sort of quick fire, almost one-liners. That's kind of,
Yeah,
I think you might have been channeling some Spike Milligan there. That was great.
I was challenging some Tim Kay. He's one of my favourite poets. So I think I spoke to Jill about Tim Key before, and Tim Key does a lot of those very short, sharp, nonsensical poems.
Great, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to hearing the story as well. So I tried to read a story. You may remember, those of you who are in Southend, that I organised the Lines in the Sand night at the old Smack in Lee, and I tried to read a story there one night and just never again. Never again. So very, yeah, great, good on you.
You need the right, you need the right audience, so hopefully tonight.
You need the right audience, yeah. And it is a shift in energy, I think, when people are used to a verse, especially when it's quite quick, then suddenly it shifts. Anyway, so moving on to last but certainly not least of my featured poets, Bethany, who I think I would call your style really, there's something very delicate about it, and I particularly enjoy the observation that you bring in, and that's sort of both in terms of, well, there's something about what I get from your work is this sort of exploration, this endless delight in not just language, but also in kind of human relationships with the natural world in various different ways. And I particularly have enjoyed the series of different moon poems that you've composed and I've heard at various events. So I don't know what you've got for us tonight, but I'm looking forward to it anyway. So yeah, let's hand over to you.
Thanks, Annabeth. It's really lovely to be here and lovely to hear everybody. And I really enjoyed your poem about us all rippling together. I love that idea. I think that's great. So for my first bit, I'm going to do a few poems from my pamphlet, The Sea Refuses No River, from Fly on the Wall Press. And then in my second one, I'll read some poems from my new collection, which hasn't been accepted yet, but hopefully will be, which has got the moon poems in that you mentioned. So this first one's called It's Not About the Broccoli. I never saw you cut broccoli. I didn't know what you did with the main thick stem. I don't know if you ever called them fairy trees, or how small or how tall you'd cut them. I don't even know if you liked broccoli, or whether your body needed the alkaline. If you ever watched it boil or timed it steaming and wondered about whether to, if, maybe, perhaps, and how to make a cheese sauce, or would it be al dente next to the carrots, lamb and mint and new potatoes? Perhaps you never ate broccoli at all, but as you watch me now chop up little green trees and little green stems, I think of the home I once knew. This next one is a bit more political. It's called Within. Syria within me, your crumbling empty houses, a skeleton of a city, desolate, desecrated, apocalyptic. Palestine within me, your land robbed, olive trees poisoned, crimes against the wall, barriered, bombed, broken. Europe within me, every flag of every nation, long peace, cross-bordered, patchwork of language and culture, wind carries translations. Blood battles within me, the silent ones that nobody speaks of, in families, out of families, cut between classes, scars and fences needing to be undone for many generations yet to come. Russian pogroms within me, in the bones of my great-grandmother, her silent screams from the Pale of Settlement, broken babies, sunset bleeding on the streets. This thirst within me, a desert of carcasses, sand cleaned, stooped against hands, outstretched hands. Something a little lighter now, and this is inspired from the Perseids, when you have all the shooting stars in August, and it comes from the constellation of Perseus. It's called As Within, So Without. The lawn is tired of green, trying on more faded colours, scraps of straw, barely holding on to earth. Moors blaze their signature, hills send smoke signals, fields crack open their own braille. Day after day, week after week, bikinis, shorts, traffic haze and sweat. But when the moon arrives, in her song of eclipse, it is cool and clouded. When heat returns with teeth, we recede to the shadows to breathe. But when the earth intercepts the flow of the Perseids, our breath can be seen smudging the outlines of our shivers. Then nothing more, nothing but clouds clouding in upon clouds. When all the wishes remain unwished, the new sickled moon peers down at us, wondering when. And I'll finish this mini set with this poem, and maybe if you think of your favourite colour, it's all about colour, but I don't mention what the colour is. It's called It's the Colour. It's the colour you wrap yourself in, comfort blanket when you're dying inside and you think no one understands. It's the colour of infinity, so big you turn from it, squint your eyes to a slit. The colour you hadn't expected, fragrant mountain air, so fresh, so ancient. You weren't there when I called your name, or I called the wrong one, but I needed to hear my name on your lips before I knew language existed. But it never transpired. I've been thirsting for that colour my whole life long. Thanks.
Thank you. Oh wow, that's such a journey. You've taken us on there, and so many different experiences. It just feels really experiential. I loved the line about when all the wishes are unwished. Yeah, lovely. Thank you. So now I had a plan. I had a plan. Get rid of that. Who needs a plan? I'm wondering, Kay-Anne, would you like to read next?
I confess, I've not written a poem in about 3 or 4 years. I had a stint in hospital and it just stopped. That was it. So when you said to me, did I want to come tonight? I thought, a challenge, let's go for it. So I've only actually written one thing, but I thought I'd bring 2 tonight. One, a really old poem that I thought kind of reflects the mood that we're all kind of thinking in now as well. And then one a bit more recent that I wrote a few weeks back and haven't yet amended at all. So let me find them. So one of them, some of you may have heard already. Can I find it? It's called The Beach and the Birds. As I sit and look across the river, it starts to rain. On the other side, it is sunny, but not here. The sky is grey and heavy. The tide is almost in, but not quite. You can still see some of the beach. On it, where the water lays in the folds of the sand, stand the birds, lots of them. They don't seem to mind the rain, nor do I, sitting inside looking out. There is something bleak yet inviting about a beach in the rain. It's empty and exciting, mysterious. It's waiting like the day just before dawn. It is still and calm. The rain stops. The birds start walking, but they stay on the beach. The wind wakes up and moves the clouds. The beach also begins to wake. People start walking. Cyclists ride by. The birds remain watching. The tide wanders in further. The rain starts again, lighter this time. But the beach is awake now. People keep walking. Children still play. And the birds continue to watch. And the other one, it's kind of a list of thoughts that I've had over the last few months. And I've kind of wrote them down, but they kind of made sense. So make of it whatever you like. And I've called it Life in Lockdown. Life became gentle and began to slow. Virus restrictions changed my life, changed all of our lives. Lockdown was easy, but it was also hard. The sun came out and I stayed home. I loved the growing length of my hair, but not the expanding roots. They exposed the creeping grey. No trundling along a busy seafront and down the pier. No sitting in cafes with coffee and cake. I got used to it. I learnt to love my garden and small things, the way the flowers grow, flower, change and die until next year. I could hear the birds sing, not just in early morning. I heard them tweeting to each other all day. I watched them fly around. One hopped onto the shed and along the fence top, then launched itself up to next door's roof. The constant hum of traffic became the odd car, and I came to enjoy this slow and gentle pace. My social life adapted. It is now just as busy as it was before, despite not leaving my sofa. I zoomed to other people's homes through a screen. What will we do without it? If you've not tidied and cleaned, we all know. A pandemic might be stressful, but it also feels more relaxed. No more needing to wear a bra, or get dressed up, or stay sober in order to drive home. I'm already here. Thank you.
Oh. Thank you. Oh, lovely. Gosh. That's so really took me back to the estuary. The first one.
Well, yeah. Well, I thought when I looked at the first one, I thought actually that's kind of the mood now, is that it's dull here, but there is some sun somewhere else. And the world is beginning to wake up a little bit after being completely shut down. Yeah. So that was where I coming through with that one.
Oh, it's lovely. Yeah, two spectrums as well, like the one with like the kind of outward looking one leaving the house and looking out across this expanse, and then the other one sort of being at home, like yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Gurnam, how are you doing?
I'm holding on.
So I said earlier that I try and get you in not too early and not too late. So in the middle feels where it's at. Are you ready? So I should say Gurnam and I have bonded over poetry before, haven't we? But this is the first time I've asked you to read any of it in public. So thank you very much for jumping in at the deep end with me.
Yes, I'm hoping I don't manage to mess this up too much. So, it's a bit of a mishmash of old stuff, new stuff, and whatever I can pick up right now. So here we go. I don't have a title for this one. Sometimes I wonder, what do they see when they look at me? In my typical face, it's Punjabi jeans, my light, dark skin, brown hair that's classed as black, when being from London isn't enough. No, I mean originally, as if originality had anything to do with it. My people, oh yes, I know each and every one on the Indian subcontinent. We're one big happy family. The family that says, don't apply your English ways to us. Yes, my English ways. The way I like real ale, queuing and chips while talking about the weather. The way I'm called Paki back home. So a very different one, really, really old one, called River Run. Run, river, run, through wilds unseen, scrub and bush and heath and marsh. Different strands woven as one. Rush and tumble, helter-skelter, heedless, headlong, glistening glister, shooting sprays of diamond dust, distant burble to rising thunder. Gently flow and mildly wend through rolling, sweeping, winding curves, lazy meanderings of heady waters, heavy with thought and silent with sleep. At the end, salty tears, lost in dark depths unknown, melding with the cold, the restless, a new voice singing songs of old. Got one very, very short one and then another short one to finish. Joy of toast. Yeasty caramel cinders wafting at breakfast. Homely, cozy, woolen warm goodness. Friend of the student and midnight feasts. A crunch fest melting into buttery delight. Fruity, nutty, or Marmite. Sweet, savory, or both. Versatility galore. For the upper crust, smother with posh pate. Avocado, here we come. One of life's unsung heroes. Any hour, any day, give me toast. And finally, pieces. And I fall to pieces again. And I see for the first time their broken beauty. The shards shining like lost jewels, scattered in the gritty sand, or worn pebbles, kissed clean by countless rivers of water over countless years repeating.
Wow. Thank you so much. So I hope I won't embarrass you too much, just to say to everyone that as far as I know, that's the first, is that the first time you've read an open mic thing? Yeah.
But first actually, I think, attendance to it at all as well.
So, yeah, well, I certainly wouldn't have known, and really enjoyed just such a versatility. You're as versatile as toast. And yeah, really, really strong and beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks.
So, Richard,
Hello.
you remain to read, and I'm really looking forward to hearing your work because I've only ever read it.
Right, you shall now hear it, and you may indeed participate in the first poem as everyone else can. If you wish to participate, unmute your mics. If you don't wish to participate, this is your right and privilege. Give us a D. Give us an O.
D.
Give us a U.
O.
Give us a B.
U.
Give us a T.
B. T.
What's that spell? What's that spell?
Doubt.
What's that spell?
I think.
Are you
Doubt.
sure?
No.
Some time delay there, I think. There's always one. There's a hotel with freshly laundered sheets in a town with restaurants, shops and a well-kept park. But I took the road less travelled. Now here I am, stuck in a bog, lost, alone and cold, and it's getting dark. You sit snug in your home and dry bay. I freeze by night, despairing by day. But more than this, I did it my way. Decay between the ears. My brain is in decline. It's becoming increasingly stupid. It's filled with mist like it got pissed. It's filled with muddle, a muddy puddle. Though once I was a bright new kid. I can't conjure up the right words. So here are some that are wrong. Arsenal, insect, Malteser, Yvonne Goolagong. Are you feeling non-responsive? Mr. Pushy. Hello, Mr. Pushy. You've got to the top. You pushed your way right up there. You would never stop. The public think you're fabulous, a hero, a guru. Now you've got lots of money, sexy girlfriends too. I, on the other hand, wasn't at all pushy, was I? I look at you now and think, maybe I should have been. They also serve. What did you do at the time of ecological destruction, Daddy? I was a polite, good listener. On the same theme, Good Listeners Union. Have you ever thought of not going on indefinitely? Try conceiving of time, even attention, as finite, if you possibly can. The Good Listeners Union is proposing an overtime ban. I am an anti-patriot. This is Landscapes Aren't Patriotic. The valleys of the world say, sod your kings and stuff your kingdoms. We prefer not to acknowledge such indignities. Your boundaries are preposterous. Your countries are so crass. How can you think we belong in them? You humans arrived recently here. You and your lame traditions. The rocks and the trees, the rain and the breeze do not know nations. Though you are welcome on it, this land is not your land. We have no owners. We need no flag. Space. Pressing this precious place right into my face. Is there anything quite so ace? I'll see you later, human race. I could say I'm missing you. In honesty, that's not the case. I'm floating weightlessly in my own space. Cheerio. The end.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Wow. Brilliant. Yeah. I'm trying to work. That was just like a roller coaster of different. Well, it's very comedic, and yet, yeah, a lot of moments in there where you're kind of connecting, I think, with something much deeper. Yeah, particularly like the space one. Thank you so much. So we're about an hour in. Well, not quite that really, because we started a tickle late, but hey. So now would be a point to have a break if we wanted one. But we're a small enough crowd that I can just say, how are you feeling? Would you like a break? Yes? Right. So we'll reconvene in about 10 minutes after we've sorted out all our fluids in and out, presumably.
10.
I've got like, what's that? That's it. Thank you. Can be. Hello, hello, hello. So we just had someone pop in, but they've gone again. Didn't even get to say hello.
I mean,
Well, obviously weren't impressed with the tea break. I'm assuming you're not going to read, is that right? No. You don't have to read. So looks like we're just waiting for Jill, but yeah, I'll give her a couple of minutes. I think one of the things that I really enjoy about these events is I have this idea of maybe what I'm going to read, and then someone will read something and I'll think, oh, that reminds me of this poem. So I thought I'd start with one that I wasn't expecting to read at all. I'll start the second half with this, which you've just brought to mind for me, Richard. Just that idea of, yeah, questioning man-made borders and things, I suppose. Some of you might have heard it before, but you can hear it again because it's really good. It's called A Plea from JL3570D. At age 16, by Royal Mail, a number I received. My heart, it sunk. They've got me now. And I was not deceived. Chained into a system of taxes and of earning, the future yawned before me, the implications burning. Your assimilation is complete. Now learn and earn a wage. Some see this as empowering. I just saw a cage. It soon transpired that every act required me to be defined, pinned down and measured, the antithesis of free. A card for this, a pass for that, a username, a code. I must prove my identity to use the very road. You pin me down with reference tags like a moth inside a case. I may not pass beyond these shores before an image of my face is securely pasted into a special little book that records the details of my birth as well as how I look. And it was at birth this trap was strung as my father signed the form, defining me in syllables while the placenta was still warm. With your process and your system, I must define my very flesh. I am snared inside a database, just a digit in a mesh of social construct spread across a global nation. A myth, by definition, of a human fabrication. I could run Land's End to John O'Groats and then swim across the sea. The land and waves would not demand I prove that I am me. And this me will shift. This me will change, this I will flex and grow. Your world denies my place within this universal flow. My existence is an accident, a happy slip, a chance, an unexpected syncopation in this cosmologic dance. My place in time and form in space cannot be spreadsheeted. And when I'm dead, I will be gone not just because I'm deleted. This ball of rock belongs to all of us, yet none. It is not your algorithm that drives it round the sun. It does not even notice us, as far as I can see. I beg to just live on it, without bureaucracy. Thank you. So I'm going to read a few more because I can. We've got time, and it would be a shame not to. So I've picked a few that some are older and some are newer, but they feel quite quite close to a process that I'm hopefully now coming towards the end of in my own personal development. So some of you know a bit more about my backstory than others, but I left Manchester. I left a career in teaching after getting really unwell with stress and anxiety, and I developed an exercise addiction and disordered eating, and just was having all this crazy stuff going on with my body image and stuff. So I think I'm really starting to get on top of that now, which is really nice and about time. So I'm going to read you a few that have sprung up throughout that experience at various points. And I'm going to start with one called Guts. My body's not a hoarding for your latest ad campaign, a media visualization to fuel your gravy train. My form is not a battleground, nor politics' best tool in flesh applied a symbol for female supreme rule. It's not a bearer of more children, destined just to breed, to churn out other bodies and further mouths to feed. It has no obligation to be or stay one size, and it should not be judged by any gap between. You don't tell me if it's injured or blossoming with health. I'm the one that's in it. I'll determine that myself. Regardless of the shape, this temporary meat is not simply filling space between my brain and feet. Its purpose is to let me see and feel the world, to facilitate awareness as my lifetime is unfurled. Its strength may trough and peak and change still more with age, but it's another precious resource, another laden page in the manual of existence, a thing that lets me be and learn and grow and flourish in response to all I see. So take back your expectation. I just don't need their weight to burden and to stop me or fuel my own self-hate. Please disregard the labels that are hung upon my gender. I give back all those assumptions, addressed return to sender. Hi, body. Nice to meet you. What shall we do today? Let's go and seek experience in our own private way. Thank you. So, yeah, two more. So this is written relatively recently and doesn't necessarily just refer to the body and my relationship with it, but just a sort of an interesting and very common, I think, certainly amongst women. I don't have experience of being a guy, so I don't know, but I expect it's probably much more common across genders. But that kind of sense of, oh, I'm not good enough, that I think a lot of us experience. So this is called enough. I've had enough. I'm pressing pause on the contracted self-improvement clause. This is enough. No more training. Goodbye to all routines of health that promise golden when I get there, which creep more distant as if by stealth. No more receding event horizon of fantasized and flawless me. I'm calling time on just keep going and ask, so what of where I could be? I've had enough. I'm pressing stop on the endless self-improvement shop. This is enough. No more racing onward to some never end. No more goal and no more hurry that leads nowhere but round the bend. No to ticking unticked boxes, yawning, empty, never filled, and no compulsive making most of all my time that's not yet killed. I've had enough. Time to delete benches that mark me incomplete. I am enough. Won't waste life scheming, preening, just to welcome death. No building up some perfect future just to die in when I'm out of breath. No more constantly reworking portrait brushstrokes that would recall a character who never was, to unseeing eyes from my sepulchre wall. I've had enough, and will it uninstall the system software that renders small, that invents flaws, creates distractions, and commodifies obsessive actions? No good intention as guilty verdict. I won't let my path become my cell. I won't let my tool become my weapon that keeps me subject in ritual hell. I won't let support become my fetter, nor comfort blankets smother me. I won't let guidelines be my jury. There are no rules can set me free. I've had enough. And so I'm running the executable file of the infinitely unfolding unknown into an expanse of creative, unrepeatable contingency. I've had enough. This is enough. Time to be, as I am, enough. Thank you. And hello to Steve, who's just appeared.
Hello,
Nice to meet
thank you.
Welcome. So we're in a second half at the moment. I'm going to read one more poem, and then we're going to hear again from our featured poets. And after that, then it would be lovely to hear from you as well as anyone else who'd like to read. So yeah, one more poem from me that I wrote today. You don't get fresher than that. And so it's not on paper, and I've got to find it on my phone. Here it is. So this is the latest update in where I'm at of that process that I was just describing, and it's called Exercise. I used to believe I had to exercise my demons by putting them on a treadmill and running away from my own skin until finally, wraith-like and ephemeral, I could escape the fleshly clutches of my own existence. But my devils got tired, so tired of the pursuit of other people's problems. So then I believed if I could only woman up, strengthen, I could become a demon slayer, ruthless and uncompromising, and banish those darker thoughts to the confinement of never at all. So much for self-possession. The devil must be sick, sick, sick of carrying the can for all my dirty secrets, but still he's always had my back. Now I know true strength is neither flight nor fight. They will not serve. Every life story ends with a death sentence. So now I simply sit and hold the hand of all that I once feared and listen. Thank you. So great thing about running your own poetry night is you can just read loads of your own poems. Hooray. We started off with Jill, and yeah, I'd like to invite you back, please. Oh, invited her back and she's run away. Come back. You're muted, hon. Unmute.
I must have logged out of the meeting, if you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah,
we've got you. See you. We can hear you.
Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you. Can hear you.
Ah, it says your meeting will start in a few seconds.
Oh. Were you here?
Ah, right. Okay. Well, let me just see. Unless I'm starting my own meeting, because that.
Or maybe. Are you starting a splinter group already?
Yeah, a renegade. Hang on. Have a look. So you can see me, yeah?
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm here.
I don't want you launch.
Your gorgeous halo.
Well, it's going to be weird because I'll do it anyway, but I won't be able to see myself. Not that I'm that vain that I need to, but it just is it weird that I'm not going to be able to see you guys either.
Oh yeah.
Do you want to? Would it be all right if you go on to James for a minute, if James doesn't mind?
Yeah.
And
Do you want to try log out and come in again?
Yeah, I'll do that. So please accept me.
Yeah.
Hi.
So James, you're up.
Oh, gosh. Okay. She's still there. I can see her.
Yeah, really. Yeah, I know. Look like it here.
Do you want to carry on, or do you want to wait?
Yeah, no, you carry on, and hopefully Jill will be able to sort out what she's doing.
So, yeah, as I said in the first half, I've decided to try something a bit different in my second set. A bit of storytelling.
Story.
When I first started writing about 30 odd years ago, it was writing short stories for members of my class, literally really short sort of 2 sides of A4. So I tried to recapture that for this over. Well, I'm getting a bit of an echo. Okay, that's good. Okay, so I've got 2 short stories here I've written this weekend. I apologise about the delivery because I haven't had time to rehearse them properly yet. The first one's called Freddie and Me. Kathy left me the week before my birthday. Someone suggested I get a pet. I wasn't lonely, so to speak, but my friend said it would give me something to focus on since Kathy had left. It would help me cope. I thought I was coping okay, as the drinking, smoking and pornography were taking up a lot of my spare time. And I wasn't sure I had enough hours in the day to look after a small furry animal too. But as my friends pointed out, those other pursuits were not really doing the best for my mind, body and soul. So a pet would be a better option. I wanted something low maintenance. A dog would be out of question, as my experience with dogs is they're incredibly needy, as well as being generally stupid animals. Lizards and snakes were out, as I didn't want to be that guy. And hamsters or guinea pigs didn't suit the image I had of myself. So I chose a cat. I went to the local rescue centre, and after seeing cats with lost ears, lost eyes, lost paw, and one that was unable to grow fur on a large part of its body, I picked out a cat that looked the least damaged. His name was Freddie. There was no change in that. He was a year old, a ginger and a little bit underweight. I was told Freddie had been rescued from an abusive household and was mentally scarred from his previous owner, which was something I joked I had in common with him. The lady at the rescue centre didn't find that funny, but I still signed the paperwork and took Freddie home a couple of days later. Despite the psychological trauma, Freddie was a reasonably relaxed cat at first, not the timid ball of fur and nerves and fluff that I had been half inspecting. He took to my flat very quickly, finding his spot on my sofa and curling up with a ball within an hour. I was told Freddie was an indoor cat, and that wouldn't need letting out, and he would be happy just sitting inside and doing his business in a tray. That was, in my mind, a little bit more work than I was expecting, having heard the joys of a cat is that they come and go as they please. But weighing up the daily emptying of a crap box against waiting up all night for him to get home from another feline adventure, and I decided that panning for turds was less anxiety-inducing, and so I took a hit on it. The first couple of days, Freddie was cautious with me, not scared, just unwilling to make nice. He would just stare at me across the room, and if I sat down on the sofa next to him, he would jump off and do a shit in the kitchen. I understood that he came from an abusive home, but with this sort of behaviour, I was starting to think that his previous owner wasn't 100% to blame. It was frustrating not being able to break through to Freddie's cold exterior. I tried to win him over with treats, toys, and the finest cat food the corner shop would supply. Eventually, on day 5, I made a breakthrough. And whilst eating a box of takeaway chicken, Freddie appeared on the arm of my chair, sniffing with a look as if to say, "What's this?" I offered him a piece of white meat, and he hoovered it up with ferocity. And from then on, it was one bite for me and one bite for him as he purred in my lap. We developed a shorthand, a series of noises, whistles, and chirps when we were in the flat together. I know when he's hungry, and he knows when I feel lonely. We feed each other. We watch films on the sofa. He knows when I've had enough to drink, sitting on my lap so I can't make the next journey to the fridge. I'm pretty sure he hid my lighter too, But that's okay, as I don't need cigarettes anymore. Stroking Freddie is my new nicotine, my new release of serotonin, my new addiction, my new vice. Kathy removed photos of us on Facebook, on her Facebook profile. She unfriended me. She told my friends to subtly tell me that she's met someone new. In a futile attempt at one-upmanship, I tell them to tell her that I've got a new cat. Then I have second thoughts and tell them not to say that, as it sounds a bit weird. Only it's not weird, as I have Freddie, and Freddie is great. I tell Freddie about my day and he listens. I tell him about my problems and he listens. I tell him about Kathy and how she's moving on, and he listens. I tell him how sometimes I wish she was dead, and he says I should go out and burn her house down in the middle of the night, waiting outside so I can hear her screams as the flames burn her flesh and make her ash of her bones. He tells me I should do it tonight. It's our 1 year anniversary since she broke my heart. Freddie shows me where he's been hiding my lighter all along. Cheeky Freddie. He tells me everything will be okay. He tells me we can go get some takeaway chicken afterwards and watch a film on the sofa. People misjudge cats. They say they can't empathise, but Freddie can. Freddie's great. He helps me cope. This one's a little bit lighter. This one's called When Tom Tried to Assassinate the Prime Minister. I've done a bad thing, said Tom. What? I said, looking into guilty eyes. I tried to kill Boris Johnson, he replied. I suggested that he started from the beginning. Back in the first week of March, in the early days of the COVID pandemic, Tom had showed symptoms of coronavirus, and after testing positive, it was confirmed he had contracted the disease, probably from his work colleague who had just returned home from Italy. Tom had to self-isolate, and whilst feeling crappy from the disease, he was unable to sufficiently work from home. The knock-on effect of this was a loss of a work contract, costing the company a six-figure deal, and personally losing Tom a bonus that would mean he could get that barbecue he had his eyes on since last summer. It was fair to say that Tom was not best pleased. Tom and myself chatted several times during his early isolation period, but as the virus caused terrible headaches and his breath to shorten, our phone calls soon became less frequent. But I could sense the anger he was feeling, most notably towards the government and the way of dealing with the crisis. So when we arranged to meet up at the end of his isolation period for a socially distant walk across the park, I was surprised to see not the furious Tom that I'd been half expecting, but a fragile-looking, almost weak shadow of the Tom I used to know. Is it the virus? I said, gesturing at his slouched body and gaunt face. But it wasn't. This was guilt that had transformed my once majestic friend into a husk. I've done a bad thing. I've tried to kill Boris Johnson, Tom whispered as if the trees and park benches were bugged. And as I probed him further, Tom's simple plan was revealed. Tom's anger at Boris and his rogues gallery of a cabinet had bred a hatred akin to that of Guy Fawkes. And whether it was the isolation, the virus, or just giddy rebellion, Tom had hatched a plan. I say plan in the very loosest terms, and I say hatch as if there was any real embryonic elements at Tom's actions. I coughed in a jar of posh coffee and sent it to number 10. Tom sheepishly bleated, fulfilling both the actions and the reputations of a sheep. You what? I questioned, fully aware of what Tom had said. I sent him Corona in a jar of coffee. It's like when they released smallpox in that Japanese underground, Tom said, mixing up his references. What makes you think it got to him? I asked. Have you not seen the news? He's got it. Tom's eyes filled with terror. The coffee, I honestly replied. No, the virus. Upon checking my news feed, Tom was right. Boris Johnson had indeed called not COVID-19 and was telling everyone it via badly self-filmed video in his house. Johnson's nose was red and his eyes were puffy, until now neither being a symptom or side effect of corona, but they were there for all to see. I still had my doubts. Just a bit drunk or tired, I said. No, said Tom, it's definitely the virus. Why would he lie? I didn't want to say anything, but I could think of about 24 reasons why he would lie. The main one being that he was, is, and always will be a lying sack of shit. But I felt a character profile of the worst prime minister we've ever had would not help relax a very jittery Tom. What are we going to do? Tom asked. We? Why was I being brought into this conspiracy? I had nothing to do with it. I didn't cough in a jar of coffee. Suddenly, my 2 meters distance from Tom didn't seem nearly far enough. You don't know he caught it from your package, I tried to reassure Tom. Of course he did. He's been banging on all week about washing hands. He's not going to catch it like a normal person, is he? I tried to pull my eyebrow down from its lofty position upon my forehead and instead used my energy to tease my panicked friend. You're the new John Bellingham, I said. Who? He assassinated Spencer Percival, the last Prime Minister to die in office. Tom's sickness returned. They hoped his death would cause an uprising, I told him. Did it work? Asked Tom. No, I replied, but then they didn't have Twitter back in 1812. Tom wasn't amused. A week later, and Boris was in intensive care. Tom clapped very hard that week. But the following week, Boris was out of hospital and doing laps around his garden. It was miraculous. Do you think it was all the clapping? I asked Tom. Well, it can't have helped, Tom replied. The end.
That's great. Thanks, James. Yeah, really nice to have those two halves as well. And yeah, I love the way you take great delight, it feels, in sort of teasing people into this sense of where a story's going, and then just
do like a twist.
Yeah, great. Thank you. I'm wondering where Jill, are you how are you doing? Did you manage to sort your tech
Can you see me?
Yep, I can see you.
Oh,
Like
right,
a seance.
Did you?
Yes, it says my internet is unstable.
Oh,
so if
that's
it goes
okay.
again, it's not me
I'm
being
quite unstable too.
If it goes again, it's not me being unstable. It's purely the internet.
Sure.
Yeah, the next piece. Well, it's kind of 4 pieces really. It's something that most of it I wrote about 8 years ago. It's the first persona poetry piece that I did actually. About a lady called Cynthia who was elderly and lived in a residential home, much to her disgust, which is part of it. And so I'm going to read that, but I've got a new end to it. So, but as it's a persona piece, I put on a hat because I always like to have a bit of a hat if I'm doing a persona. Kind of makes me feel a bit different. She's also from Lancashire. So I'm hoping there's no one here that's directly from Lancashire, because the accent is probably deteriorated actually since my mum was from Lancashire, and she died 3 years ago, but she was always my monitor for this piece. She'd tell me if the accent was going a bit skew with. So I haven't got her to protect me now, plus the fact that I do blooming West Country accents as well, which has completely scuppered my accent. So hopefully it'll be all right. So, right, called, the beginning is part of Quiz Night from the Swan and Feathers. I can't even get my teeth in today. And then it's Cynthia's story. My only break from this godforsaken residential home is my weekly visit to a local pub, the Swan and Feathers. Only against its better endeavours, it's known more as the Swan and Tussle, on account of the fights, the hustle and bustle, the general commotion, the weird drinking portions. Have I mentioned the fights and the banter and the general kerfuffle? Now, on Tuesday, it's quiz night, and we call our team Grey Matters, a play on words on account of us having grey hair and champion brain power. But last month, we're mixed up one day, and I were asked to join Cavaliers, a right motley crew. There were Chris and Steve, Danielle, Gay Tony and Black Tony, though I've no idea why they were called that, in this posh lass, Camilla, though God only knows how she ended up in our end of nowhere, but she seemed to enjoy herself and have a laugh. In fact, we all did. In fact, our team won quiz, and this is my story. So I've finally been deposited in Bank of No Returns, magnolia walls embracing faceless pictures of landscapes I'll never visit, shiny linoleum floors smelling of stale piss and saffron, men with slippers on wrong feet, women lost in a world of daytime TV and crosswords. And I know I've been forgetting things. I forgot your birthday 2 years in a row, and I wear a lot more purple. But does that really mean I should be put out to pastures unseen, grazing on insipid food and bland quiz shows? This world was once my oyster. Now it's a tightly closed shell of its former self, and you visit on a Sunday at 3 p.m. every week, and we sift through the veneer of all that's past. You pretend you feel bad about putting me here. I pretend I've made friends with George and never really talk about what really matters. truth and love, about the things that cause us to laugh and cry, about crap left on bathroom floor. And we sit and drink cold, sit and drink cold pieces of Battenberg and stale tea set before us by a lass whose name still eludes me, and yet she did tell thee I keep eating me dessert before me mains. She took this as confirmation of me oddness and unwillingness to perform. But if prunes are the only dessert you're offered, you'd want to get it over with, wouldn't you? Letter to George. Oh, the acerbic wit from thy shriveled lips, and those passe moves from rheumatic hips. Champagne and caviar, old beer and chips, witty one-liners, faded old quips, with your eyes burning brightly, saliva that's flowing, you're no longer sprightly, I'm leaving, you're going. That handwritten letter shoved under me door, well, I'm telling thee now, I'm nobody's whore. But you climbed in me bed all keen and expectant. I pinched thee so hard, I caused an inflection. You blurted out sorry and you scuttled away, but your memory's weak. You were back next day. I'm being quite caustic and matter of fact, an acrid old egg that's finally cracked, because as my lover, you're not even shacked. You were never the part, we were never quite shacked. So George, get the message and let it be said those false teeth won't be in a jar by my bed, and this anusal cream won't be nestled away on my bathroom shelf any time, any day. Forgive me for sounding quite so cynical, but obsessive obsessions are bordering on clinical. So George, get the message and read a good book. Your time's had its passage. Your goose has been cooked. George, bless him. It was an outrageous flirt, as the phrase goes. He loved a bit of skirt, quite literally. He'd pinch 'em and wear 'em on occasions, and no one minded his feminine persuasions. He grew on me like a rash, like a climbing clematis, but his attempts at romance were gloria frustratus. But over time, he'd gained some level of status. We'd have a laugh and giggle, largely over his hearing apparatus. He'd misheard a sentence and repeated back. The times the staff nearly got given the sack. He were a character, a joker, a smooth-talking chain smoker, always caught round the back with a fag, and he loved poker, a card game fanatic, and a fine whiskey smoker. I teased him that the reason he lived to a ripe old age was on account of him being pickled like an onion, a wise old sage with plenty of nout, a glass of whiskey and an ounce of snout. That's tobacco to you and me. He was smoked through like a kipper or a fine cheddar cheese, preserved to the max with crinkly knees. I'd only seen him in the warm summer breeze, when the dress he were wearing would billow and rise, revealing his kneecaps, an unpleasant surprise. There were 470 deaths due to COVID that day. George died at 5 to midnight, so I guess he was the 470th. But like all the others, he weren't just a number, he were a person. He had a life, he was good and sometimes bad. His untimely death may have been avoided. He may have been around for longer to grow on me like a rash, like a climbing clematis. But his attempts at romance were gloria frustratus. Whew. Thank you. That's all I've got.
Thank you so much. That's just endlessly entertaining. I love listening to you perform.
Oh, thank you, my dear.
Well, there are people. I mean, yeah, some of us read our poems, and you definitely perform. And yeah, the way you
read it at the end, the last bit.
But yeah, it's so evocative of different perspectives on life from different people. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, Bethany, it would be lovely to hear from you again.
Okay, so because you mentioned my full moon poems, Annabeth.
Yes, and I can actually, oh no, yeah, there it is. I can actually see the moon. Not full, but
It's very full tonight, yeah. And we're on our way to the second full moon in October, which will be on Samhain, or Halloween, as most people know it. And there are 13 moons this year. And my collection's called By the Light of 13 Moons, and it's currently being submitted to 9 archers, so fingers crossed. They might say yes. So I thought I'd do the wolf moon, which is in January actually, but this one is called the blood moon, and it was actually the full moon that was January last year in 2019, and it's dedicated to the memory of Mary Oliver, who's my favourite poet because she died that month. It's called Blood Moon. This moon I lived and died by, one day I will return to. This moon that lived and died inside of me, one day will be my companion. I don't know what it is that makes us look up when we've been dragging our feet for too long. I don't know what it is that makes me feel like I've swallowed the moon and it got stuck halfway down. It's stuck somewhere below my heart in the middle of the ribs. I look for where it came from. Was it a Mary Oliver poem, the one about the moon and water, where she rose away with her white arms as we all dream of doing? I think about the wolf moon, soon to be full upon us, and I wonder what the Native Americans did with the pieces of moon, the ones they swallowed, the ones they carried in their hearts, the ones that reflected in their eyes. Does it mean the same to us as it did to them, this moon? So this next one is a narrative poem, seeing as we're in storytelling mode, and it's after the sturgeon moon, which is in August. They're all Native American names for moons. They have a lot of different names for the different moons of the month. And this is based on Scottish folklore. In Scottish mythology they have a selkie, which is a woman that turns into a seal and back into a woman again, so she can morph between being a seal and a woman. So it's selkie, for those who don't know. Most of you probably know. So this is the sturgeon moon. By the light of this moon, the sturgeon come back to spawn. By the light of this moon, the selkie leaves her seal skin on the rocks and takes the form of a woman. By the light of this moon, the unborn girl wonders if she'll ever find home. By the light of this moon, the sturgeon leaps into the luminal light, splashes down, the huge sharpness of it. The splash can be heard from half a mile away by the fisherman who steals the selkie skin and asks the woman to be his wife. The unborn girl cries, for she knows what is to come. By the light of this moon, the sturgeon fights to escape another fisherman's net. The woman agrees to stay for 7 years as his wife, and the unborn girl watches from above the clouds. 7 years pass. The woman longs to return to where she knows she belongs, back beneath the waves, return to her sisters, her home, but the fisherman will not let her go. Within 7 years, the sturgeon have depleted, and a daughter has been born and grown into a small woman child. The dying woman, with the urging of her daughter, goes on a long, lonely journey to find herself again. The woman travels for 3 days and 3 nights, hungry and cold, but by the light of this moon she finds the firelit cave of the wise woman. The selkie drinks the hot tea and herbs from the wise woman's cauldron. It warms her bones, feeds her flesh, and replenishes her spirit. By the light of this moon, the Selkie is given a small boat by the wise woman, and across the waters, in a dark, damp cave, she finds the skeletons of her Selkie sisters. She laments over their bones, sings the deep mourning song of her ancestors. An old Selkie swims across to her in her seal form and joins the lament. Together they sing the flesh back on the bones of their sisters. All the sisters but one gain the form of their seal selves and awaken. The Selkies return to the home of the water, waving to their sister to join them, but she has one more thing left to do. The woman rows the boat back to the island of her daughter, the skin of a Selkie in her pouch. By the light of this moon, the woman spots the sturgeon, the weight of him catching a streak of moonlight across his flanks as his body flies, then sinks beneath the waves. She feels the pulse of him, the reverberation of his heartbeat, as his body, his salt-loving body, weaves so easily in the element she loves. She kisses the forehead of her daughter and bids her farewell. She sings her the song of the Selkies, says she will see her again a year from now, by the light of the full moon, by the light of each and every sturgeon moon. And I'll do one more poem, which is the last poem in the collection, and it's called Beauty of Touch, and it starts with an epigraph from Adrian Rich, who's another one of my favourite poets, and the quote from her is, "A touch is enough to let us know we are not alone in the universe, even in sleep." Beauty of Touch. Somewhere on my timeline there is a moment where my palm is caressed by a circling tongue. Beauty cracks me open like the first sunset. Lanrhaeadr falls cascade through me. Still holding my palm, she looks into me. My body shakes. Sobs erupt. Grief and pleasure are equally strong partners. Blue and pink threads deep entwined in this tightly held ball of string, holding every event of my lifeline. It feels like there are gaps, the emptiness of touch, empty for months. The thread is there but not visible. As I try to see who I am in tiny 2D boxes on other people's computer screens, when my reflection waves, I wave. These small actions may be witnessed by dozens or noticed by none. I can't tell the touch of another's eyes. When will they make me real again? What are the thoughts behind their eyes? The windows are too tiny. Nobody can see that somewhere on my timeline a tongue circles my palm, cracks me open like the last sunset. Thank you.
Thank you. I feel like I've been taken to a magical land. Yeah, really beautiful. Thank you. Very evocative. And yeah, I'm sure a lot of us can empathise with that last one, especially the lack of touch at the moment. Yeah, thank you. So I'd like to invite Steve then to read. Thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, it'd be great to hear.
Thank you. Can you hear and can you see?
Yes, clearly.
Thank you. Well, yeah, thank you for letting me in late. I was a bit of a Zoom tart because I was at a poetry launch at 6:30. And is it all right if I do 2 short poems? Thank you. Oh, there's an odd noise going on. Yeah. This is all about that.
Yeah. Can hear you well. So
yeah, this is all about that phenomenon of the Zoom rooms and managing to get to lots of places. This is called our virtual poetry tour T-shirts. Our virtual poetry tour T-shirts will be impressive. Batley, York, New York, Walsall, Shrewsbury, in a crazy month faster than Phil Collins playing both Live Aid gigs by Transatlantic Concorde. Batley was great and sounded like home. And Bilal explained in an accent just like mine, welcome to Batley, Steve, but we got 5 Mohammeds and 2 Bilals, so the running order might be a bit confusing. And please, no poems about cake, because we're fasting. I'll do my best, buddy, I said in an accent just like his. So locked and down in my Shropshire parlour, wattle and daub satellite dish, keeping me connected with an audience of a sofa and a sideboard. Furniture hidden from the deceits like the books and family photographs rearranged for a politician's TV interview. So with my phone camera tacked at eye level on a music stand, so as not to get right up the listener's nose every time I speak. And many poets embrace this new technology with their voices in clouds, edited films, made animation, and we all had learning curves so steep we sometimes woke up with vertigo in the morning. Although a few shady poets look like the silhouetted witnesses on a protection scheme. So with my bus pass and rail card quarantined to my wallet, the mic took second stage behind the camera. And some poets questioned the need for lower garments at all when you could perform in your Y-fronts from your back room. And I never once had to run for the bus or miss the last train home from my front room to the refrigerator. Ta, thank you. For the next one, I'll try this. I'll try standing up. Is that all right? Oh, bit up. Ta. And that's the bus pass, which I haven't used since March the 16th. And when I got it, I was a bit disappointed because when it came very fast. It came in 5 days, but it had a picture of this old bloke who looked just like my dad on the front. And this is called Last Bus Home. All right. Somewhere in that snatched breather between caring and being cared for, they give you a bus pass. Join a frugal gang of off-peak free trippers. Reclaim the day-life-safe city streets, freshly cleansed with early morning hoses and bristle disinfectant. Join those pensioners hours after 9:30, also freshly cleansed with early morning hoses and bristle disinfectant. I get on the bus to Shrewsbury. The driver doesn't look up to check my age. Bastard. But redundant gunslinger conductors still swaggle the aisle, criss-cross with cowhide straps, bandolier change dispenser, balancing ticket machine cocked and thumb trigger high. And the ghost of Roger Rycroft still sits next to me in the seat of the vibrating front and explains by the noise and quiet the transmission system of the school bus engine. Doris struggles with her shopper's wheels but enjoys the smiles of recognition. Billy the Quiff skips on at Atcham, catwalks the bus, reclaims the back seat from his youth, leaves a trail of over-optimistic aftershave. Tartan trolleys, wagons safely circle in the luggage space, unfurl, uncurl, to be restocked with bargain beans and smoky bacon bits. The return timetables are checked twice. The last bus home leaves much, much earlier now. Cheers, thank you. I
Thank you. Thanks, Steve. That's great. Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
Cheers.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
You too.
And hope to catch some more of your work at some point, maybe even in person next time. Who knows?
Yeah. So is unMUTE a monthly thing, or is it just started up, or new?
Just something I decided to do from my bedroom because I was missing all the open mic nights. So who knows? Who knows? Watch this space. But yeah, it's a good start. It's a good start.
Yeah,
I think.
and whoever put it on Facebook, thank you, or whoever signaled me to say it's on. So thank you very much.
Great, you're welcome.
Cheers.
I'd like to invite anyone else to who read in the first half. If there's anyone who'd like to share anything else. So that's Richard, Kayan, Gurnam. Is there anything you'd like to read, or anyone else for that matter? But I'm giving you the chance first because everyone else has already read twice.
Okay, I'm happy to do another poem.
Fantastic, thanks, Richard.
Let's do. Okay, this is called "I'll Be on My Way." Of all 196 countries in the world, you were allocated to me. So when the team called England scores a goal, I'm supposed to shout whoopee. I ate your chips until eventually I came to hate the word quintessentially. Tomato ketchup, HP sauce, custard for the second course. Pork scratchings for the Morris dance, William the Conqueror, go back to France. When Queen Victoria finally dies, I'll admit I prefer French fries. Convert your feet into Shakespeare's meter. Sherlock Holmes, Geoffrey Boycott, Blue Peter. Kenneth Williams, Sting, Baudelaire. Arthur Scargill, Charles I, Edward Lear. English breakfast, there's bones in your kipper. Union Jack, Jack Tar, Jack the Ripper. We live in hope but future glories. Half of us vote for the fucking Tories. There's good scenery in England and in other countries too. There are great people in England and in other countries too. All the depression and mediocrity and crime I've witnessed have been in England each time. What I have taken I now give back to you, and no damn foreigner is going to spoil it. Plant a flag in my patriotic deposit, English shit in an English toilet. God save the Queen and the English string band, Captain Birdseye and the ship he sails. Enough, merry stiff upper-lipped England, I don't believe your old wives' tales. A Jew boo sucks to you, dear England. I am going to live in Wales. Jochen Var, thank you.
Thank you, Richard. I really enjoyed that. That's brilliant. Although I've recently discovered that although I was really delighted to know that I was just 0.7 of a mile over the border into Wales, and now we're locked down. But yeah, generally very glad to be here. Thank you. Gurnam, can I tempt you to another?
I guess so.
Yay!
Reluctantly dragging feet. I haven't got my other book notebook, so I'm just going to see if I can find it. My filing system is not very good, so things are all over the place, scattered around.
Yes, I've got lots of bits of random paper myself.
I did have a better version of this, which I don't think it's on the Word doc. Can I do? Oh, actually, hang on. Maybe it is. Ah, it is on there. Okay, excellent. Okay. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is wasted. Even ashes become something else. Dancing atoms and molecules moving constantly. Transformation, wanting it, not wanting it. It will happen no matter. We kick, we scream, we mourn. Who do we think we are? Birth, life, death. How shall I dance with you? And in this achingly beautiful world, nothing is wasted. Not inconsolable grief, not loss or sorrow, not roaring belly laughs and boundless joy, not grinding work nor poisoned arrows. Not the freshness of spring or autumn's farewell, not summer's blazing glory nor winter's dark brooding, not one drop of water or lone falling leaf. Even the sharp retort or anger's fire, join the gentle smile and healing touch. The stillness of the hills, the storms of the mind, flights of fancy and rooted depths, nothing is new. Every moment, the first moment. Scrubbing dishes, making the bed, stirring the soup, step after step, even falling back. All is rich, full, necessary. Nothing is wasted.
Thank you. Thank you. So, it feels like we're drawing to a natural conclusion on the evening, but it would be very remiss of me not to just bring in an acknowledgement and a request. So, and I'm going to read you another poem as well. So I, some of you know, some of you don't know, that I am currently, right now, living in a community of Buddhist women who run a retreat centre for other women to come and learn to meditate. They might be Buddhist, they might not be. And it's a transformational place which helps people so strongly with their lives in all sorts of different ways. And we've been shut since March, which means that we've lost our income. We're ticking over, but there are 9 of us here to feed, and we're doing our best to keep the place going. We've been doing some online retreats, but we haven't been charging for those. We try and run on a donation basis anyway. So I'm asking you all if you would consider making a small donation. I'm going to pop a link in the chat in a minute, but it's not that I'm asking for nothing, because I'd also like to send you a copy of this little collection of poems that I put together called Earth, Sky, Woman. I put this together last summer as a sort of fundraising thing for Tara Loka, and I've still got a few that I'd like to give away, not necessarily in exchange for a donation. If you'd like a copy, pop your address in the chat and I will send it to you anyway. But if you would also like to make a donation, then we would all be very, very grateful for that at this time. It is very much needed so that we can carry on supporting women with their spiritual and their mental health at this very difficult time. So I'm going to send that now.
Annabeth, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Thank you for telling me. Did you hear any of that?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. And then I suddenly muted.
It was just the last bit.
Oh, do you know what I think I did? I think I, when I hit return to send the link, I accidentally muted myself. That's good. I'm so glad I didn't have to do all that again. So yeah, do send me your address if you'd like a copy, and I'll just send you one. That'd be great. And I'm going to finish with a poem from this book that you might be able to enjoy for yourself. And it just seems really, it seems quite relevant at this time. It's called Makeup. To be no cynic, I really do try, but the tougher it gets as the headlines flick by. Increasingly hard to part truth from a lie, just a cog in the system from birth till I die. I've tried really hard to play the game, to be just enough different, but mostly the same as all of the other cogs, placid and tame, idly spinning in localized fame. But it seems that our world's built on facades and lies. Girls are pursuing a gap between their thighs whilst guys judge themselves on a flexed bicep size, and love is now plastic, stocked in bargain buys. Tune in or turn on to find out what's new, and you'll find a sad picture shot through and through with violence inflicted on many by few, blank heartache of profiles stained red, white and blue. I do bother to vote, but that's just a charade of Eton boys changing rules they themselves made, then swapping the scores of games already played and trading a textbook for another grenade. So much is made up, synthetic and fake, or pushed to the limit, but for whose sake? Tugged at and torn, stretched so thin you might break, earned credit by weight of the stockpile you make. So wash off that paint that's hiding your face. Forget all that froth. Let's get back to the base of just what it means to run this human race. If life is a card game, you're holding the ace, because all that you need is to pierce the screen of all that you tell yourself you have once been and the media circus operatics you've seen. Seek your truth to believe and then say what you mean. Now, it won't be easy to give it this shake-up, more awkward and pained than the most bitter breakup. But from this dream or nightmare, you've the power to wake up. Society's torn, but we can all still make up. So I don't wish to sound too exotic or grand, but you can't make a fist when you open your hand. Our lives are so brief, just marks in the sand, but you'll shine all the brighter when your flame is fanned by others who know what it takes to be you, who know of the battle, the fighting you do. And really, those people aren't so far or few. We all have our struggles and swamps to wade through. Please, let's move beyond the push and the shove. Aim that bit higher, lift each other above. Take that velvet fist from the iron glove and really be radical. People, let's love. Thank you everybody very much. It's been, been absolutely delightful to see all your faces. I started in March as a complete Zoom phobic, and I didn't want to go anywhere near it. And as you can see, I've come out of my box and decided that it's better than not seeing you. Yeah, thank you so much for being part of the connection. Well, who knows, maybe we'll do it again. I might need to go away and think a bit about that. Yeah, if you're keen, if you're up for it, let me know, and yeah, we'll sort something out. Be lovely.
Thank you for organising.
Thanks very much, Annabeth.
You're very, very welcome. Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, Annabeth.
Night, everybody. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Will the link stay up even though the Zoom shifts?
You might just want to, I think you might just want to copy and paste it. I think when I close the meeting, you won't be able to get it. So I'll just.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to jump about.
Yes.